I'm Dustin, welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk, heading into the second week of the fantasy playoffs, week 15. A couple of big injuries, week 14, so plenty to talk about. Before we get into it though, this video is sponsored by thirdnout.com. They got a new t-shirt design up, Fantasy Football Legend. It's my favorite. If you're looking for a Christmas gift, here you go. Really nice quality shirts. Get on thirdnout.com. You can click on the link in the card or the description to get there. Helps us out, helps them out, and you get a sweet shirt. Let's talk about running backs. Kenneth Farrell's the first guy, going to be the most added player this week, more than likely. Melvin Gordon got hurt. It's not looking good for him playing week 15, maybe not even week 16. They're saying he's week to week. He avoided a major injury, but it doesn't look like Melvin Gordon owners are going to have him down the stretch. So Kenneth Farrell, he's the guy to add. Hillman's going to factor in a little bit as well. He's got a matchup against Oakland week 15. I mean, just because of pure volume, he should be, at least a flex play. So Farrell's worth a look in all leagues. Same with Bilal Powell. Matt Forte got banged up. If you've been watching these shows this year, you know I'm a big Bilal Powell fan. We saw what he did when given the chance, week 14 to touch the ball a lot. The guy has a lot of talent. I mean, yes, it was against San Francisco, so keep that in mind. If you do end up picking up Powell, he's not a guy that you're instantly going to be plugging in over other solid options, just because, don't forget, it was the 49ers. A lot of people have looked very good against the 49ers. But I do think Powell will be right there on the RB2 discussion week 15 if Forte does end up missing that game. Last must-add, running back in all leagues, Ty Montgomery. He's been starting to get more and more touches as of late. Christine Michael got a decent amount of touches, but he also made some mistakes out there on the field. So, maybe they might trust Montgomery more going forward, and he's been averaging more yards per carry. He's been getting, some looks in the passing game. Montgomery, and he got a rushing touchdown. So, he's definitely trending up. He's trending in the right direction. He was dropped in a lot of leagues after, his initial surge of getting picked up in a lot, but I think it's time to pick him back up. The Packers have been looking his way a lot more often as of late, and pretty much every league now has wide receiver and running back eligibility for him, so it's a lot easier to find ways to get him into your lineup. Let's talk about some running backs adding deeper leagues. First one, Justin Forsett. The Denver running back situation is a mess. Booker looked like he was going to be the man, had a great opportunity, but he's not taking advantage. Forsett comes over, and he led the team in touches week 14, but neither of them really did all that well. If you're desperate, it looks like Forsett could be a guy to at least take a look at. Pay attention to the reports. We should get more of a clear picture, maybe what's going to happen week 15 as the week goes on. But Forsett's someone to keep an eye on. Charles Sims as well just came back from injury, instantly picked up right where he left off as the change of pace guy. I think he's definitely a guy to look at in deeper PPR leagues. And if for whatever reason Doug Martin gets hurt week 15 or whatever, Sims could have a huge upside for the last week, week 16 against the Saints. So even if Martin stays healthy, in PPR leagues, I think Sims is a decent add because he might have flex appeal week 16 against the Saints. All right, let's take a look at wide receivers. Taylor Gabriel, he did it again. He just keeps finding ways to have big weeks. And when you're looking at a lot of receivers out there, like Brandon Marshalls and even like Jarvis Landry or guys that haven't really been all that great this year, you get to this point in the season, maybe you take a gamble on a guy like Gabriel, who could be a little bit boom or bust, but has a higher weekly ceiling. Even with Atlanta getting out to an early lead, Gabriel still had a big week 14. Now Sanu and Julio Jones were out, obviously, but even if one or both of them come back for week 15, I think Gabriel still has that high upside. So someone definitely to consider in all leagues at this point. Ted Ginn Jr., I want to talk about him. He was kind of a bust week 14, but a lot of that had to do with game flow. I mean, the Panthers got up early, and then they didn't really have to throw that much. Ginn, his value is when they're playing from behind or if they're in a shootout. And why I wanted to talk about Ginn again is because, I know I've been talking about it a lot over the last few weeks because he's still only owned in about 30% of leagues. Here's why I wanted to talk about him. He ends the season with the Redskins in Atlanta. Both of those games I could see being high scoring, the type of games that you want Ted Ginn in your lineup. And I don't want you to just write him off because of his week 14. I still think Ted Ginn is someone that can win some fantasy championships for people. So don't write him off. just because he did what he did week 14. Dontrell Inman, another solid game for him. I like his matchup week 15 against the Raiders. It's not terrible. Then he plays the Browns week 16. So Inman could finish the season strong. So I do think Inman is definitely worth a look in deeper leagues at this point. Adam Thielen is another guy that needs some attention. I like their matchup week 15 against the Colts. I think this could be one of the highest scoring Vikings games of the year because I do think the Colts are going to be able to put up some points on Minnesota. And the Colts defense isn't that good, so I think the Vikings could be able to score. So I like him, especially in PPR leagues. He's been targeted early and often from Bradford. He's clearly one of Bradford's favorite targets. He trusts him. I don't mind Thielen. Robbie Anderson, I wanted to talk about him. Out there with the Jets, I say it all the time. A lot of times when there's quarterback change, the targets get distributed differently, and that's definitely what's happened since Petty's taken over. Anderson has had 23 targets over the last 2 weeks, so obviously PPR leagues, he needs to be on your radar. They play Miami in week 15. I don't necessarily love that matchup, but in deeper PPR leagues, I think Anderson's definitely someone to keep an eye on. Quarterback, I don't mind Sam Bradford week 15. I know he hasn't been all that great. His ceiling isn't very high. But again, going back to that matchup and just that game in general, I see that one potentially being a high-scoring game when you compare the Vikings games from what they've had this year. A lot of them are just kind of slow-paced, defensive-oriented games. But I think the Colts will be able to put up some points that might force the Vikings to have to throw the ball a little bit more. And Bradford's at least been solid. He's had some solid games. Now this is just if you're desperate, 2 quarterback leagues and you're looking for, you don't really like your QB2, but 12-team leagues, 12-team 1 quarterback leagues, more than likely you already got a quarterback that you're more confident with than Bradford. But I don't mind Bradford. I don't mind that matchup this week. Then my pick up and play defense is going to be Houston. Only owned in about 45% of leagues. They're at home against Jacksonville. That's about all you need to know for why I like them as my pick up and play. Houston's D has been a little bit of a disappointment. Losing J.J. Watt obviously hasn't helped them, but I still think they'll be able to put up some points against Jacksonville. So this is just a portion of the list. If you want to see the full list and read my write-up on everyone, click the link in the description. Don't forget, get on to thirdnout.com if you're looking for some Christmas presents, and good luck on the wire.